Cheney and members of the platform committee, distinguished faculty, parents and grandparents, little brothers and sisters who are annoyed that it's taking so long, fellow students, the choir was wonderful, the chorus was really terrific, and of course, graduates. I'm very honored to have the chance to talk to you, and it will not go on that long, I promise you. I'm a little intimidated. Last 2 Saturdays ago, I attended my youngest son's commencement at the University of Colorado. The good news for you parents out there, tuition does come to an end someday. And for me it was 2 weeks ago, a third of my 3 children. But the commencement speaker was the finest commencement speaker I'd ever heard, and I've heard a few, been on a few platforms before. And it's very tough to top Julie Andrews, because how can you top someone about whom a song has been sung, Climb Every Mountain, at a commencement? It's just not really possible. But from that, and I'll return to it in a moment, I just am going to briefly present to you 3 questions and 4 exhortations. The first question is, how did you get here? Graduates. Now some of you are thinking, wise cracks. Well, I drove a Toyota Camry, or I came by, Grandma or Grandpa brought me. But I mean, not that. And I don't mean from your wonderful parents, or from the efforts of your extraordinary faculty, or anything like that. Where 300 years ago, when this land was only settled by native people, where were your people, and how did they get here? From what continent, at what time did they end up in Arizona that they allowed you to be here tonight? And my guess is, if you think you know the answer, you only know a partial answer, because then I'll ask you to go back a little bit farther, and you really have no idea how lucky you are to be at this point in Western civilization to bring you into this room tonight. You can't know. We can't know how we got here. The untold number of people that go back hundreds of years that made sacrifices, and especially courageous decisions to leave the land of their birth and go somewhere else. Even as Abraham did, even as someone in your past did, to cross an ocean in a shaky boat, or to leave oppression, or to flee Cossacks, or whatever, they got you here tonight. It's an extraordinary question to ask yourself. The second question is, where are you going? Some of you might answer that, well, I'm going to the Honors College at ASU, going to the Air Force Academy, all the other things that you have planned. Distinguished group of people I know. I was talking with your headmaster last night, some of the members of your team. So I know how well you've done and how accomplished you're going to be. But I'm not really talking about that. And my second answer for you is, you have no idea where you're going. None. My daughter is living today in Japan, married to a Navy pilot. She never intended to live in Japan. She never learned a lick of Japan. But 6 years after she graduated from college, she's in Japan for 3 years. I could tell you story after story, as your parents have probably told, of untold, unknown destinations that you will end up in. And so you have really no idea where you're going to end up. And I also venture to say you have no idea what you're going to do, though you think you might have some idea what you're going to do. You really don't. So if you don't know where you came from, and you don't know where you're going, what have you been doing for the last 4 years? My third question. And the answer is, you have been learning how to live well today, and how to live well tomorrow, and every day between today and those faraway places and those extraordinary adventures you're going to have. 4 years at Scottsdale Prep have taught you how to live well. Aristotle says in the Ethics, and I'm sure some of you, if not all of you, have read it, that the chief good is a happy life. And he spends a long time talking about how to get that, how to earn that. And I like to use the modern version by my friend Arthur Brooks, who's the president of the American Enterprise Institute. And you should know Arthur's story, because he had no idea where he was going. Arthur was a French horn player, and a very good one, extraordinarily successful, playing in the Spanish Symphony, as a matter of fact, when one day, in his late 20s, he called his father in Seattle, another successful classical musician and symphonist, and said, "Dad, I don't want to do this anymore." His father was taken aback. "What do you want to do?" "I want to become an economist at the age of 28, which means 4 more undergraduate years and 6 years of doctoral work. But he said, go for it, son, and he did. And he's become an extraordinary economist, and he heads the American Enterprise Institute, and he writes primarily upon charity and good works and why people do them, and he writes about free enterprise. And he has a chapter in his new book, The Road to Freedom, on what makes people happy. And it actually is pretty simple. Earned success makes people happy. Earned success. Not inherited success, not gifted success, certainly not unhappiness or failure, but earned success. That can be any number of regions, any number of professions, any number of pastimes. You might succeed in the arts. Some of you obviously have the talent to do that. You might succeed in the medical arts. You might succeed in politics and culture, in raising a family. You might be extraordinarily successful in teaching as your teachers have taught, or in the ministry. And you can succeed anywhere. You can earn your success, whether it's in Japan or here or in the Spanish Symphony, it doesn't matter, because Scottsdale Prep has equipped you to earn your success because nothing has been given to you. Rigorous, right? And you will approach with the same rigor that which you have been doing. Now, in a very short period of time, you're not going to be going to another school. You're going to be going to a more permanent adventure, but you are going to take along the way the gifts that you have been given, especially in the beauty appreciation that you all now have. No matter where you go, at whatever time, when you stop and you appreciate that which is around you, whether it is natural beauty, a great work of literature, when you see for the first time in Florence the David, or when you go to Rome or to England, any of the great places of the world, and you understand the architecture and you know a moment of beauty, you can thank Scottsdale Prep for preparing you to appreciate that moment, to make you happy, and know that you earn the success of appreciating that. That's what your hard work is about. I told you I had 4 exhortations and then I'll be done. Don't get squirmy, young ones. Almost done. Number 1, today, seriously, look at your mother and your father and thank them. And if you don't have a mother or a father, thank that significant person in your life who made it possible for you to be here. Because you don't get that opportunity often enough. And the opportunity to do it on graduations is unique, and you're allowed to get a little weepy. You're allowed to look them in the eyes and say, thank you, I know I've been a pain in the neck. And you have no idea, and they will tell you and probably have told you, that you have no idea how much they have worried and worked and then worried some more about every day that you have been engaged in the struggles and the growth that you've been engaged in today. Number 2, thank these extraordinary teachers. I'm finishing a book right now. I'm behind. I spent the day at the hotel actually doing publisher's notes. I'm one of those teachers. I'm behind. I've missed the deadline. I'm sure some of you know what that is. And you call them up and you beg for time. And if you have a good editor, they give you a little bit more time, right? Some teachers are merciful. Some editors are merciful. This book comes out in January of next year. It has a chapter on teachers. And I said on my radio show on Friday, right now, anyone I was saying I was going to give this address. Everybody I know can name at least 3 and often many, many more of their high school teachers. I can do 20. But I write about in this book 4 in particular: Sister Mary Jean Cornerico, Ron Karenbauer, Fred Hoover, and Kathy Santucci, each one of whom 40 years later, actually 39, my 40th high school reunion is next year. That right makes me 58. I write about each of them, and I called them up, each of them. They all live in Ohio, where I'm from. And I talked to them, and they were all lifers, right? They did 40 years in Catholic education in a curriculum not very dissimilar from this, with the same kind of sacrifices required of these wonderful professionals here and scholars on your left. And I asked them why they did it, and the best answer came from Karenbauer, the classics teacher. He said, the schoolman's calendar is not marked in days or months, but each page is a year. And so in 5 and in 10 years, they mark the progress of their careers by the progress of your lives. And so take a moment to say thank you, but then remember, it's just fine in 5 and 10 years to call up. I can't remember the name of the teacher who got you through calculus. And that is indeed something to remark upon. But thank them, or who taught you Dostoevsky, got you through I Heard Milton, Brother Karamazov, whoever did that for you, thank them tonight. And remember, on 5 years intervals. Number 3, what Julie Andrews said that was so remarkable. Julie Andrews was a singer, an extraordinary singer, and I'm sure you all know Mary Poppins and The Sound of Music. What you may not know, and some of you will, is that a botched operation on her vocal cords cost her her ability to sing at the height of her career. She was devastated. What she told the graduates in Colorado, I thought it's the best message, is that there is a guarantee in your life that you will get knocked down flat on your back. There's a guarantee. You will lose your parents, you will lose a loved one, you will lose a job, you will lose a spouse or a child, the worst thing of all. But when that happens, Julie Andrews said, you get up and life does go on. On Monday, I have a program that I do every year with the Injured Marine Semper Fi Fund. I tape it on Thursday, and I talk to between 12 and 20 veterans of the war, mostly Marines, but also Army, Navy, Air Corps, and some Coast Guardmen, who suffered terrible injuries in the war. Some have lost 1, 2, and even 3 limbs. And I talked to 15 or 20 of them, and you can hear it on Monday. They are extraordinary people. And their lives just began as they learned how to get back up from that. And the most extraordinary of all those conversations is in the aftermath of the Boston Marathon, a former Navy SEAL who had lost 2 limbs, and his father got on a plane and went to Boston to tell the victims of the marathon bombing and their parents that indeed life was beginning, a different, unexpected, but wonderful life. What Julie Andrews said is, when that happens, you will get up. You're better prepared than most because of the liberal education you've received. You know very well of the authors of whom you've read and their ups and their downs, and you know of the scientists and the failures that they had and the extraordinary successes they achieved, and you know that for every patent there are 30 that never got off the ground. And then finally, thank your God, your Creator, every single day for the extraordinary gift of being able